this be the stunning conclusion to the genre-defining horror trilogy that spawned countless spin-offs and a whole universe to itself? Well, not really. It's not a bad movie. It's not really a great one either, but when you compare it to the two older siblings, it's a Blu-ray case, which the 3 actually wasn't in the theatrical release for the posters or anything. Just for the home media release, it has the 3. So thankful for that. This video will contain spoilers for the Conjuring 3, and potentially Conjuring 1 and 2. So that's your warning to leave, or let's get spoiled. My first experience with this movie was watching it on VOD on June 4th of this year. I remember you get a whole lot more than other people that I had seen online, but when I rewatched it, it didn't hold up as much as I had hoped. It's potentially because I had this shiny novelty of a brand new Conjuring movie to watch after loving 1 and 2 so much. Directed by Michael Chavez, potentially Chaves. I do not know. Directed by Michael. Can't go wrong there. Not James Wan this time around. The movie opens on the Warrens performing an exorcism on young David Glatzel. Before the boy can be cured, demon David gives Ed a heart attack. Well, heart problems. And in the moment, David's sister's boyfriend, Artie, decides he wishes to be taken instead. Worth noting, you might recognize Debbie, who is David's sister, because she does all those SodaStream commercials. So now we go ahead a little bit in time. Arnie and Debbie move out. Our dude, Arnie, is looking a little sick. And then he sees a creepy lady in the window and drops a chainsaw. Ed has been in a coma, so he actually saw the transfer take place, but he's been in a coma in this time jump, so he hasn't been able to warn people about what's coming. Arnie eventually gets a little stabby when a drunk dude gets a little too touchy with his girlfriend. But in his defense, he thought it was a demon lady. Then, when he's arrested and brought to jail, he asks to see the Warrens, and the Warrens say he ain't possessed because they bring him icons, and he can read perfect scripture, and nothing happens to him, which is a surefire sign that he's fine. They then convince a lawyer to represent him off-screen, which kind of sucks, in my opinion, because I really wish, in the scene, the way it plays out, she's very no, it's impossible. It's outrageous. 2, they show her the collection that they've amassed over the years, and she looks scared, she's shaking in her boots. Which works if it were a comedy movie, in my opinion, but because of it being such a stark contrast, it feels weird and out of place here. I really wish we would have gotten a scene like that where we saw this woman just flip over time, not just... She's scared. She believes. Then we go back in time a little bit to the Glatzels moving into the house, and we get to see young David go into their waterbed room, and oh hey, there's a ghost lady in the bed inside the waterbed who grabs him and then causes water damage, which isn't water damage to the floor. Anyways, Lorraine then goes underneath the house to check what's there. Because of that, not water damage, it's like a black decay to the wood. Sure enough, the previous owners left their rat feeder. I mean, somebody left a witch totem down there. Of course! They ever explain why specifically that house? Nope. There's the 3 rules, or 3 people that they need, but why specifically that house? How did anybody know? Whatever. To learn more, they head to another fellow who has a very similar collection to them. I have a neat thing to add to him, about him later. It's not relevant right now, but just keep in mind he's going to be an important character. He's another dude with another collection. They're instantly best friends, right? Not quite. Oh hey, we get a scene where the Warrens' assistant tells them that the parents from the first movie sent them flowers. Nice callback. Although now that kind of makes the Hodgsons from the second movie look really rude, because they didn't send anything. After sending out photos of the totem earlier to neighboring states and cities and towns, they get a hit. But they have to help solve a case of these 2 teenage girls. One killed her, and then they couldn't find the murderer. Girl A stabbed Girl B. Girl B's found dead. Girl A, unfound. On the first watch, it was fine, but on a second watch, there must be some basis in real practices or something for the necessary 3 sacrifices or something, because from a storytelling perspective, you could really cut out this whole angle and it would be fine. I'm pretty sure they even followed it up in a comic book, so you could have done a Conjuring spin-off comic book or movie about this story if you really wanted to, but it's just here for a 20-minute, 15-minute portion of the movie. It just really drags. You could just do the family and the Warrens and it would be fine. Anyways, Lauren, no, it's Lorraine, you idiot. Anyways, Lorraine solves the case. Easy. She just uses her superpowers that she got between movies. But then she almost gets pulled off a cliff by a random hand. I don't understand how the rules work on that, but sure. Also in the next scene, the demon can just kind of like interrupt phone calls. But not in like a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of way. So naturally, after solving the case, Lorraine breaks into a morgue and holds hands with Girl A, who they found. Because she can have a connection with the witch lady by holding the dead girl's hands. Lorraine holding hands with the dead girl, who's been in the lake for, I think, at least a month. She gone. Long time gone. She gets a telepathic video chat with this witch lady, and that works. Lorraine being able to project herself into seeing where the witch is feels really weird. She's gotten a major power buff from this first and second movie. She went from just feeling things and maybe seeing a thing or two to being able to do full-on, if you've ever played Batman Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, any of the Arkham games, how they do those crime scene reconstructions because Batman has all that cool tech. It didn't really make sense in there, but I mean, it's a video game. It's Batman, sure. But in here, it's like she can just recreate things entirely. I don't like it. I thought about this the first time I watched it, and then the second time it really stuck. It's like in The Last Jedi, where Kylo and Rey are talking to each other. They're in two separate locations, but they're like standing in front of each other, talking. But they're not together, but they can see each other, and then when the camera shifts, they're in different locations. It's just like that. Anyways, Witch Lady can make zombies. Cool, who needs rules? But Ed uses some amazing dodging skills to make the zombie's head go bonk. Now it's found out a little bit later that the Warrens themselves are cursed. I really do like the approach to this though, honestly. In Conjuring 1 and 2, it kind of felt very untargeted. When the antagonist would go after the Warrens, it felt very defensive almost. Like, ooh, if you don't stop what you're doing, we're gonna get you. Here, it feels like a very malicious attack against them. She can and will hurt them. I like the approach that this movie took for that. After the witch lady kind of force projects her way into the Warren's house and goes through their files and stuff, she sees what they have on her, so she can interact with the objects. Anyways, Lorraine goes to that old fellow's museum again. You know, the guy that I was talking about earlier? She needs help, and wait a minute. It's his daughter that's evil. She's the witch. Because why? Because he let her play around the collection. Which I do think is a very cool contrast to the Warrens. They have their collection and their daughter is around at the house. So that's another neat thing that I really appreciate that this movie does. They're mirrors of each other in this regard. This very well could be Judy Warren. Turns out he knew all along, and he was just hoping that she'd come back. She'd realize the error of her ways after spending years learning the craft, killing people at least a month ago. I don't know, she seems a little bit far gone to me, but what do I know about being a parent? Oh yeah, and then this witch lady enters the home, and you can hear her walking around, which is good, and then Lorraine goes into the catacomb. The witch lady can teleport. What can't she do? Meanwhile, Lorraine is in the catacombs now. She's trying to find the witch altar because the old dude told her, hey, destroy that. It'll be fine. And then as she's searching the catacomb, they use that duplication thing like Last Jedi did. You know when Rey looks, and then there's multiple Reys? Come on, you director. I know what movie you watched before making this. Ed arrives and makes his way down to the catacombs. This shot was in the trailer, but it looks really cool, but it's stupid. But it looks cool, so it's fine. Where the witch is Lorraine, she's like, Ed! And then she runs to him, and then just before she makes it to him, she swaps back to the witch, and then blows the dust in his face. I really like that shot. It looks cool. It's similar to how in Annabelle 1, when the little girl goes running, hits the door, she's an adult. It had a similar effect to that. This ends up making Ed go full Jack Torrance from The Shining. I haven't mentioned him, because, I mean, he's not really too relevant to the plot. He's just kind of the inciting incident. At the same time as all this is going on, Arnie is in a prison being possessed. To cap it off on both the Warren's end and Arnie's end, it's love that saves the day. And then the witch's death comes, which is really brutal because she promised a soul, which, I mean, wasn't there 3? Why did 3 turn into 1? So now we're back to Arnie in the courtroom, which is what this movie was really sold on, but it's a very small part of the movie. Like, I'd say it's maybe 8 minutes. 10. Let's go to 10. 10 minutes of courtroom stuff, and that might even be pushing it. Back in the courtroom, we see that Arnie is standing ready to hear his decision, and credits roll. Since it's based on a true story, Arnie goes to jail. So you mean to tell me, in context of the movie, we're not talking real life here, but in context of the movie, dude was in prison, started to fly, burst open the windows, and his eyes were rolling back into his head, and he was looking all like, ugh. You mean to tell me the multiple witnesses that were there, but there was like 6 people in that room, no witnesses can say, yeah, he flew? No? Cool. I have to imagine that would have been enough to get him off, but sure, no, it's fine. So now that I've gone over the plot, I'd like to talk about things that I liked and didn't like just my further thoughts on it. There wasn't too much in the way of Blu-ray extras, unfortunately. Again, just want a dang commentary track! The movie cinematography, color palette, and color grading looks really good. It is a very fine looking movie. The sequence where Arnie kills the man earlier, when he gets a little stabby, goes from regular color, and then it shuts off the lights and goes black, and then a red light turns on, and then Damon comes forward. Ah! That said, my favorite shot in the whole movie, it's in the trailers, they knew what they had. It's when Lorraine is solving that teenage girl's murder, and she crouches down, it goes from daylight, and then as the camera pans down, it goes to nighttime. Another really neat thing I noticed about the visuals on this watch of the movie, when you're in the catacombs with the Warrens, it's very orange and warm for the color choices, and then when you go to Arnie in the prison, it's very blue. So you have that nice little visual flip whenever you're going between the scenes. Not that I necessarily find these movies scary, but I find Conjuring 3 very underwhelming. Like, there's nothing that really unsettled me or I could look at and be like, yeah, that would scare normal people. But yeah, there's nothing that I saw that was like, yeah, I could see that giving a kid nightmares. There's just something about this movie that feels different. Thinking about it, I was like, oh, is it because I know it's not James Wan and I'm a big fan of his? No, because when I watched the movie the first time, I genuinely thought it was him. Up until the credits rolled, I thought it was his movie. There are pros and cons, as I said. What I like about this movie, I really, really like, but there's a lot that just feels fine. I was not a fan of Lorraine projecting herself around alongside with the woman teleporting. I'm all for suspending my disbelief, but that felt a little ridiculous. Soundtrack was pretty hit or miss for me, unfortunately. A lot of the tracks, similar to the overall feel of the movie, when it's good, it's really good. When it's whatever, it's very mediocre. I've hit everything that I wanted to talk about. I don't know if I want a 4th one. I really think this is one of the more solid trilogies in horror. I think the 3rd one derails a little bit, but that's okay. Can't have a perfect trilogy all the time. This movie reminds me of Last Jedi in a lot of ways. It was an okay time. I don't know what I'd rate it. I need to put a rating system into this. Dang it! I'm not sure what series I'm going to be doing next. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you want to see more, click somewhere here. It's probably going to be like here. Video. Subscribe. Yeah!